From a dead guy found in a cove to a random sheep found in a sea cave, plus terrifying monsters and dangerous weapons, here are 10 of the craziest things found on the beach. Number 10. The Man in the Cove. A couple of people just trying to enjoy each other's company and relax on vacation stumbled onto something very strange. They were at Sennin Cove just taking a leisurely stroll. They just wanted to feel the sand on their feet when they came upon a corpse washed up on the beach. After a thorough investigation by police, the identity of the corpse still remains unknown. He was found completely naked except for a pair of socks. He was quite obviously dead and in pretty rough condition. He was noted as being a white man, somewhere in his 40s, 6 feet or 1.8 metres tall and bald. But other than that, police can't figure out who the dead man is, and the tourists who found him are more than a little bit traumatised. This is one of the weirder beach mysteries. DNA and fingerprints provided no results on the mysterious man. There were no reports of abandoned vehicles or missing people anywhere in the area. The cops even used a drone to check the coastal pathway to see if the guy's clothes had been left somewhere. Nothing was seen. The only bit of evidence came from the post-mortem examination when the assistant Cornwall coroner Stephen Covell said the man died after suffering a traumatic head injury and then probably falling off nearby cliffs and drowning. But even now, nobody knows his name or where he came from. Number 9. Giant squid. In South Africa, yet another corpse was discovered washed ashore. What is happening? This one, a little less gruesome though, seeing as it wasn't exactly the bloated body of a person. Instead, it was a giant squid, estimated to be over 14 feet or 4.2 metres in length. It was discovered washed up in Britannia Bay back in June of 2020. It was a very rare discovery because giant squid usually live in the darkest parts of the ocean where they spend their time hunting, squirting ink and fighting sperm whales. Squids almost never leave the comfortable darkness of the deep ocean, which means scientists know almost nothing about them. A carcass of this size, in such good condition, found just sitting on the beach, was a very exciting discovery for marine biologists. The giant squid was promptly picked up by researchers working with Iziko Museums of South Africa in Cape Town. They took the enormous creature back to the museum where they froze it solid to stop the decay. Scientists will now study the giant squid as best they can to try and unravel the mysteries of this deep sea monster. It's not every day they get this chance. It's just too bad the squid was only a baby at 14 feet or 4.2 metres long, as they can grow to be nearly 4 times that large. Can you imagine how excited the scientists would be with a full-grown 56 foot or 17 metre squid? Number 8. Dangerous explosive device. Back in April this year, someone discovered what looked an awful lot like an old sea mine washed up on the beach in Florida. The destructive explosive instrument was found at Lauderdale by the Sea, looking like one of those old floating mines used to blow the hulls out of unsuspecting ships. Yikes. The device was spotted just after midnight, luckily by a deputy on patrol. It's not exactly clear what the cop was doing strolling along the beach during his shift, but it's actually a good thing he was the one to find the potential military explosive instead of an innocent citizen or a kid. More deputies were called, bomb squad members were phoned in, a section of the beach was closed off, and by 10 in the morning the scene was completely over. Nobody explained what the device actually was, whether it had belonged to the Navy or was some old piece of unexploded ordnance that just got lost at sea. Judging by the picture uploaded by NBC Miami, the best guess is that it was some kind of inert training device used by the military. But how did it end up on the beach? Number 7. Megalodon tooth. Local Florida resident Jacob Danner spotted something unusual during his morning walk at Fernandina Beach. He was strolling along when something caught his eye sticking out of the sand. Curious, he decided to pick it up and examine it. It was a tooth, but not just any boring old tooth. It belonged to a prehistoric megalodon. The megalodon is one of the fiercest sea monsters that ever roamed the Earth's ocean. According to Jacob, it was the first whole megalodon tooth he'd ever found, fully intact and in great condition. For those who don't know, the megalodon was the biggest shark that ever lived, growing up to 65 feet or 20 metres in length. By comparison, the great white shark today only grows to a maximum of between 20 and 23 feet, 6 to 7 metres. The megalodon thrived in just about every ocean on the planet, starting 23 million years ago and going extinct 2.6 million years before today. We don't know how big the tooth Jacob found is, but they're usually about 6 inches or 15 centimetres from bottom to top. That's a pretty big tooth. They also go for a significant amount of money online, with the average megalodon tooth going for upwards of $3,000. Would you ever pay that much for a megalodon tooth? Do you know anyone that has? Let us know in the comments section down below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Beached turtle. In Indonesia, villagers were more than a little shocked to discover a giant leatherback turtle stranded on a beach near their small town. The leatherback turtle was enormous, weighing about 420 pounds, 190 kilos. According to local resident Gendry Rendry Tentero, everyone thought it was a giant crocodile at first. A bunch of friends were attending somebody's birthday party when they noticed the huge reptile struggling at the edge of the water. Once they realised it wasn't a crocodile set on eating them, they got to work helping the unfortunate turtle get back in the ocean where it belonged. What good Samaritans! These amazing villagers stopped partying, banded together and pushed the leatherback turtle back towards the ocean, which, by the way, these turtles can actually grow to be over 2,000 pounds or 900 kilos heavy. So this one didn't weigh nearly as much as it could have. It only took them a few minutes to shove the helpless turtle off the sand and onto the waves, at which point it swam happily back into the ocean. It didn't appear to be injured, and nobody's sure how it got stuck on the sand in the first place. It may have ventured to the shore to lay eggs and then found it couldn't waddle its way back to the sea. Number 5. Too much cocaine. It seems like all the craziest things found on the beach also happen to be found in Florida. Are you really that surprised? Well, the next one is no exception. Officials recently discovered something pretty wild while performing a nesting survey for sea turtles. Completely by surprise, they stumbled upon $1.2 million worth of cocaine. Whoa! The discovery was made by Angie Chambers, a wildlife manager who was patrolling near the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. She found a small package wrapped in plastic and sealed with duct tape. She immediately recognised it as drugs and phoned the proper authorities. While she waited, she found more and more packages. At least 24 sealed bricks of cocaine had somehow gotten washed ashore on the beach. The origin of the drugs remains under investigation. Normally, drug traffickers transport containers with around 25 of these bricks, suggesting the shipment had somehow gotten knocked overboard and all the bricks had washed ashore, except for one. "We take pride in protecting our base and the surrounding community," Joseph Parker, 45th Security Forces Squadron Flight Sergeant, said in a statement. "There is also a higher level of job satisfaction knowing that these drugs will not make it into our community." A single brick of cocaine has yet to be found, and if you asked me, it looked like there might be some sharks or dolphins out there doing some serious partying. Number 4. Toxic waste. Marine scientists made an amazing discovery in California that will shock you to your core. According to the report from The Guardian, scientists have uncovered as many as 25,000 barrels of toxic waste near Catalina Island. For a long time, experts have suspected that toxic waste was dumped into the water here during the Second World War. Now they have evidence of it. 27,345 barrels were found by researchers working with the University of California, all just barely off the coast. Apparently, industrial companies in Southern California had been using the basin just beyond the beach as a dumping ground all the way up until 1972, when something known as the Ocean Dumping Act was put into play. Now, evidence of at least 30 straight years of pollution has been found. The barrels weren't exactly discovered washed up on the beach, but they weren't far from shore either. The researchers used underwater drones and sonar technology to capture the first images of the thousands of barrels sitting below the surface at 3,000 feet or 900 meters deep. Eric Terrell, the chief scientist on the expedition, called the discovery staggering. And if you were wondering what all this toxic waste has done to the marine environment, it's basically destroyed about 36,000 acres of seafloor off the coast of Los Angeles. The long-term impact on marine life and humans is still unknown, said Scripps Professor of Geosciences Lahini Aluihare, chemical oceanographer. These results also raise questions about the continued exposure and potential impacts on marine mammal health, especially in light of how DDT has been shown to have multi-generational impacts in humans. Number 3. Neon waves. One of the craziest things you'll ever see at the beach are neon blue waves. At Moonlight State Beach in Encinitas and all along the California coastline, there is a phenomenon known as bioluminescence in which the waves crashing onto the beach appear aqua in colour, glowing an intense electric blue as if you were standing on the shore of some alien planet. The bioluminescence witnessed along California's coast is caused by microscopic phytoplankton. These tiny creatures emit light as a defense mechanism to scare away potential predators. When they get caught in the tide, they literally turn the waves a beautiful neon blue. However, it's an unpredictable event. You can expect to see the blue waves usually in the summer, but there's no guarantee. And then there's the opposite of neon waves. Because so much plankton is in the area, a surge in nutrients turns the water the red colour of blood during the day. That means the beach looks like a horror show during the daytime hours and like a dreamy fantasy world at night. Have you ever witnessed the beach this way before? Let us know in the comments. Number 2. Lamb in the sea cave. A man on a kayak discovered a lamb in a sea cave. David Smith from Levenwich on Shetland was kayaking with his wife when he discovered a stranded lamb stuck inside of a small cave, unable to get to shore. David said the lamb had probably been stuck inside the cave for weeks and had probably got there by falling down the nearby cliffs and getting stranded. One of its legs was broken and it appeared to be in pretty rough shape. But being the good guy that David is, he rescued the baby sheep, got it onto his kayak and took it home with him. David has since been searching for the owner of the sheep, but seeing as it probably belonged to a local farmer who doesn't spend his days trolling the internet, David might be keeping the rescued lamb for a little while longer. Last we heard, the unnamed farm animal was enjoying a quiet life in David's garden. Number 1. Pregnant sea monster. The fossilised remains of a prehistoric monster were found on the beach in Yorkshire, England. The fossil was amazingly discovered inside a broken boulder. It soon made its way into the private collection of a man named Martin Rigby, who immediately recognised it as the fossil of an ichthyosaur, an extinct species of carnivorous marine reptile that lived around 200 million years ago. Ichthyosaur fossils have been found all over the world and are actually pretty common. However, this one was fascinating because Martin had a hunch it contained something unique. He contacted his paleontologist friend from the University of Manchester. Together, they investigated the fossil and confirmed that the ichthyosaur had been pregnant at the time of its death. They discovered 8 embryos fossilised inside the fossil. Unbelievably, this wasn't the first time a pregnant ichthyosaur was found fossilised. At least 8 different species have been found still containing embryos, suggesting these ancient sea monsters were constantly pregnant. Scientists believe an adult could give birth to at least 11 young, though they can't say for certain how often they got pregnant or how long the gestation period was. Thanks so much for watching. What's the craziest thing you've ever found on the beach? Let us know in the comments section down below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and come back soon for another crazy video. See you next time. Bye.